Okay, good morning. So we're up to Siman Reish Tes Vav. We're just finishing off this Siman of the Birchas HaPeres. The last Sif is Sif Dalet. That's where we're up to. Says the Mechaber, Kol HaMevarech Bracha She'eina Tzricha. Anybody who makes a bracha which is unnecessary, Hari Ze Noise Shem Shemayim Lashov. He is saying the Shem Hashem unnecessarily or in vain. It's like making a full shvur or an unnecessary shvur. So if someone makes a bracha she'eina tzricha, you don't say amen to his bracha. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah, Yudches, bracha she'eina tzricha. What is it? What is an example of that? Kagain shemevarich b'soich hasuda al dvarim shenifteru kva al yedei birchas hamoitzi. So you're in the middle of a meal, you've washed, and then you're about to have a potato, and you make a ber pri adama. That is an unnecessary bracha because you've washed. So you don't say amen to that bracha. Because the bracha she'eina tzricha, duzu ha-bracha shelo tzorich klal is totally unnecessary. V'oid kol sva poiskim, da'afilu im achshav lo haya bracha l'vatala. Even if right now it's not a bracha l'vatala, gam kein hi lefamim bracha b'chlal bracha she'eina tzricha. It can also sometimes be a bracha she'eina tzricha. Kagain im shulchan Orach lefanov. His table is set. And he's going to go wash in a moment and make hamotzi and have his lunch. And before he washes, he takes some of the food. And he eats some of the food which he's going to eat anyway in a few moments' time during the meal. This is also also to go in bracha she'eina tzricha. Because that's causing a bracha she'eina tzricha. And certainly if someone is mafsik, he makes a bracha and he sort of does some sort of hefsik between the bracha and the asiyah and doing it to germ shetispat la bracha rishon legamrei, and thereby he has caused the bracha to be unnecessary and he's got to do it again. But vadai also, that's certainly also. Va'ayin le'el b'siman memvav b'mishnah berurah sif kotin yodalad magen Avraham b'siman zeh le'inyan hashlomas mea brachas b'Shabbos. In 23 it just says, because there it says she'ein likonis b'chashash bracha she'eina tzricha avur mitzvahs mea bracha. You got to be careful when you do the mitzvah of doing mea brachas. Don't make any unnecessary brachas. You can't just repeat brachas one after the other, a bit like you were just saying, because that's a bracha she'eina tzricha. Now, this is interesting. What if, we spoke about it recently, what if you've got Shabbos morning, you've got Kiddush, and you're going to go into lunch soon? So can you ever eat something before the meal? If you always got to wait, you want to nosh a little something. What did you... So he says in 19, take a look at footnote 19. Omnam. Let's say there are some things you enjoy eating before the meal. Let's say some kichels with herring or something. You don't want to have it during the meal. You enjoy it before the Shabbos lunch. You want to have that. Kosav le'el sheyesh omrim shemutar la'achlim kodim hasuda. You're right. You could have washed and you could have had them as part of the meal. But if you like having the herring or whatever before the meal or whatever it is you like, that would be okay. Ve'ein bekach mishum gram bracha she'eina tzricha. Ve'im hem dvarim hameshuchim hamoishchem sois halev l'tayvis hamaychel bevada sheyochel lo'achlim kodim hasuda. And certainly things which are going to make an appetite, which you have before the meal, that would certainly be okay, and therefore that is not a bracha she'eina tzricha. And then, if you look at 20, also an interesting footnote, it works the other way around as well. If a person finishes the meal, even though he's going to continue eating, and for some reason he just sort of made a birchas hamazon, because now, post bracha achrona, you're going to have to make a new bracha, and that's a bracha she'eina tzricha. Mishum kach kosav lekamon she'ein lechalek es hasuda shachris shel Shabbos l'shnayim k'dei lekayim suda shlishis. So this comes onto the territory that you've got to be very careful. You can't just be mafsik your suda Shabbos to become shalosh shudas. That's why, for example, on Erev Pesach, exactly. On Erev Pesach, which falls when on Shabbos, and Erev Pesach is on Shabbos, and you want to have shalosh shudas, that's always a challenge, because you've got to finish your first meal early. So some people just they eat non-hamotzi things. You can't have matzah and you can't have chometz, so you're stuck in the afternoon. But some just have whatever, they have fruits and meat or whatever later on. Or you have two meals earlier in the day, but you've got to be mafsik, so you've got to finish by 10:30, whatever time the safe man is. So you go for a walk, or you learn, but there's got to be a decent break in between. You can't just suddenly stop wash again because that's bracha she'ein tzricha. That's what he's referring to. Okay, let's carry on. So Yutes. So we said the Mechaber says that anyone who makes a bracha she'ein tzricha, for example, you're washing and then in the middle of the meal you make a ber adam on the potato or something like that. That's a bracha she'ein tzricha, and you don't say amen to bracha she'ein tzricha. And the Mechaber says it's ziv harizeh noiseh shem shemayim lashov. So what does that mean? It says in Mishnah Berurah Yutes, Rotzalema she'af hu mevarich kasei the nusach habracha b'derech chodah v'shevach. Even though he's saying lots of nice things, he just suddenly says, for example, let's say in the middle of a meal, he takes a piece of meat and he says, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shehakol niyeh b'dvarei. Now he didn't need to do that because he's in the middle of a meal. He's washed already. He's made hamotzi. But it's a nice thing to say, shehakol niyeh b'dvarei. Still, it's considered a noiseh shem shemayim lashov, and he shouldn't do it. V'chol shkein im hizke shem shemayim Hashem levatol chas v'shalom. The lav dafka shem shel arba oisius, lav dafka, it's the shem Hashem of Yudke Vovke. To hu adin shar Hashem is gamkein bichlal isa hazeh. All the other shemis of Hashem are also included in this isa. If you look at 26, over Yesoid isa bracha she'ein tzricha, what is the fundamental idea of a bracha she'ein tzricha? Kosav the Chazon Ish writes, she'itachin, she'ena mishum haskaras Hashem shel tzorech. The problem is not so much that you're saying the Shem Hashem without a need to, ela mishum she'en roi la'odom legeshes el hakodesh tomid, ela kfi ma shekov chachomim. You're treating this whole thing flippantly. You're going el hakodesh, you're going into the kodesh kedoshim. You're saying you're touching holy things here. Don't say things unnecessary. Chazal kover how you say things, when you say things, and go according to that seder. Therefore, even if you're saying the Shem Hashem with other appellations, Elokeinu or whatever it is, also hadava commercial cost for shal shul b'kiveiga mekom sim chaznish she'ein ze muchra. Okay, beseda. Okay, let's carry on the Mishnah Berurah. We're halfway through Yutes. V'hu adin im hoitzi Hashem beloshen laz levatola. So this concept applies if you say the Shem Hashem even not in Lashon HaKodesh. So in 27, for example, he gives examples. V'chein kosev le'el sheyesh les lehaskil levatola as Hashem HaKodesh Baruch Hu nikra b'hem belaz could go in got. Yeah, Gimel Aleph Tes. Beloshen Ashkenaz, or Buga Beloshen Poland for Russia. That's Polish and Russian for saying God is Buga. V'chein also lo'imrim b'mokam hatinef as omnan muta. So saying the Shem Hashem in other languages is also a problem here because it fits into what the Chazon Ish just said. Yeah, but it fits into what the Chazon Ish just said. You shouldn't treat this all very flippantly. Tahaynu shlo k'derech shevach v'edah gam ken yesh isa. Okay, Kosovo Rabbi b'shem Sefer Chasidim. Im tishma shechavercha maskir Hashem. If your friend has just made a bracha, he's in the middle of a bracha. Al tikonis teich devarav lo menaseh lekach lekach. Don't start engaging him in conversation or say to him, do this and that. Shari al yedei zeh yishtek lishma dvarecha, because he's going to stop. He'll listen to what you're saying. And you are causing him to be Motzi Shem Shemayim Levatala because he's stopping in the middle of a bracha, or whatever he's saying. If, however, you see your friend, he's about to curse another, and with the Shem Hashem, then it's good to actually intervene. Because when he is cursing his friend with the Shem Hashem, he's obviously doing an avera, and therefore you can prevent him. Okay, let's carry on. Sif Kotan Chof. So we said that if a person says a bracha she'ein tzricha, it's as if he's saying he's being noiseh shem shemayim lashov, and it's like being nishba lashov v'osa lanes achrav amen. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Sif Kotan Chof. Hu loshna Rambam. The above is the language of the Rambam. Mukerim imad ze'isa b'gemara kol mevarich bracha she'ein tzricha over mishum lo sisa. A person who makes a bracha she'ein tzricha is over the issa deraisa of lo sisa. Umikol makom das kamei rishonim to ikka isu midrabanan. According to many, the issa of a bracha she'ein tzricha of being shem masker shem shemayim is not of the actual violation of lo sisa, but is actually issa midrabanan. Given shu maskir b'bracha derech shevach v'edah, because at the end of the day, I'm praising Hashem in my bracha. It's not totally unnecessary. Ukra asmachta ba'alma, the pasuk is nasmachta. Aval imhu maskir Hashem Chas v'shon v'vatala b'loi bracha, if you're just saying the name of Hashem without the context of a bracha, without any needs, then l'kula alma yesh be'issa Torah, then that is an issa deraisa, she'oiva mitzvah say des Hashem l'kech chatira. She has her l'meitzi shem shemal v'vatala. This is a b'tmur, like the Gemara says in Tmur Daf Dalet. Ki zehu michlal hayira, she'loi lahas kishma gadol ki im b'derech hashevach, that's the only time you can say the Shem Hashem. Avalo levatala. When we come walking, bein the das Rambam who says it's a deraisa, bein the Shar Poskim who says it's a drabonon. Im nistapik le'al eza bracha im beirach aloi. If you're not sure whether you made a bracha or not, so this is the rule. Im hu dovashim deraisa. If it's a bracha which is a deraisa, for example, Brachos Torah, etc., then chayzim avarich. It's a sofik deraisa. You got to say it, and you got to go back and say it again. Vimu drabonon lo yachsi v'varich. That's the general rule. Umashma mikam achronim. The issa yesh bedova lachs v'varich. There could be an issa to go back and to make a bracha. Kos v'achronim. Ta'afilu yesh sfeika. Lahatzrich bracha going sofik ochel kazayis eloi ve'imtim tzaloi meloi achal shem halacha da'al bria afilu pachas mikazayis mevarchin on like a one grape or something you do make a bracha afilu hachi sveika lahaka levarch in a sveika you don't make a bracha. Okay, and then lastly we said that it's also to answer amen to someone who makes a bracha shein etzricha. Says the Mishnah Chaf Aleph. That's what we said last week. That if a child is just saying a bracha derech limudai, but not because he actually needs to, that you don't say amen to that bracha. He hasn't said an issa, but yet you still do not make a say on amen afterwards. The ein shem bracha Allah. Kol shkein zeh the osa issa. That and therefore you don't say amen to his bracha. Okay, that's a good place to stop. Mr. Shem, tomorrow we'll start with Birchas Hareach.